She'll ask you lots of questions to find out who you are, to make you feel like a star. She doesn't care if you animate on the ones or the twos. She just wants to get to know the real you. Here we go.
Hello, I'm the animator's friend, Zoe Lombardi-Bello. Thanks for coming and listening or watching my show today. I forgot to record separate audio for this, and I'm not redoing it. So, sorry for the shitty audio. And the microphone that's there for no reason. I'm kind of like ripping through episodes lately. I'm probably due for a little break soon, but for the time being, there is more coming all the time. Today I have Natalia Poteryakhin on the show. She is the director of the Make Original series Sunny Side Down, which is releasing episodes currently. There is a new episode coming out this Wednesday, January 21st. It is a sci-fi parody show that she was asked to create in her work at Make Original, which they do have original content, but then they also do client-based work. Sounds like they have a really nice balance between the two things of like, yes, we got to do the practical side and like have a profession, but then also like we have time and resources to devote to creating our own work and, you know, uplifting the people within the studio to make their own things. And they're all in person, it sounded like, from what Natalia was telling me, a totally like in-person studio experience, which is very cool. They're based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My chat with Natalia was like a little bit before Christmas. So I just want to make that clear because since then, you know, there was the ICE killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis. It's hard to know what to say about any of it other than that Renee Good's killing was atrocious, and the way that protesters are being treated in Minneapolis is also atrocious and unconscionable. So with that said, we'll move on. A little bit about Natalia. She directs at Make, but she also does other things, you know, within the team, like screenwriting, makes style frames, storyboards, anything and everything. She also serves as the president for Nice Moves, which is a local nonprofit working to build community amongst animators, motion designers, and visual effects artists in Minnesota. They put together things like meetups, mixers, speaker opportunities, jams, and lots of other kind of community building things to help, you know, the animation community and maybe namely the indie animation community thrive in Minnesota. Natalia said that when she was young and she was in college, like she, you know, joined this organization and it was like an excellent supplement for her college experience and absolutely necessary for her to kind of be thriving now in this career. So it sounds like a really, really awesome resource if you are based in Minnesota and like looking to get more involved in animation in any way, shape, or form. Look them up. Tell Natalia I sent you. Like I said, I've been cranking out episodes. Last week I had my episode with Hugo Bienvenu and Felix de Givry, who are the creators of the feature film Arco. It's really beautiful, really unique film about climate change, really hopeful, optimistic, and about community, which is something we need more of, you know, in these times is community. And I feel like it shows how community functions really well. And you can also start to see it in theaters this week more broadly. All that information, I think I saw that on their Instagram. Real quick, I have my Camp Snap camera here for you to look at if you're interested on the video. If you want your own screen-free digital camera that has a filmic look, you can get your hands on a Camp Snap by using the link in my show notes, which gets you $5 off any purchase. This is another video chat that I did, another virtual chat, because Natalia and her team are trying to promote this show. So encourage you to watch. It's available on Spotify and on YouTube, but prefer if you watch it on YouTube. So yeah, why don't we just go to the conversation now? Enjoy my chat with my new friend, Natalia Poteryakhin. You know, I've been watching the show, Sunny Side Down.
Yes.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about the show, how it came to be?
Yes. I mean, basically, I started working here at Make in Minneapolis, Minnesota 3 years ago. And literally in my first week, my boss, Danny Rabashkin, he's the creative director. He was like, well, I know that you're into, storyboarding, writing kind of thing. I've really been hoping to do like a new Make Original. I don't think we even called them Make Originals at the time, but more just like the studio's always made an effort to kind of fund internal passion projects alongside the commercial work, which is really great. Obviously, it's a big part of why I'm like drawn to working here. But like he was just like, well, I think we should do like a 2D thing, and I really like sci-fi stuff. And he's like, I really like Spaceballs. So like, what if we do something like that? And long story short, I pitched like a 2-panel slide deck that was like, it's going to be a little diner in the middle of a black hole, and there's a human waitress who wants to escape desperately but can't, and her old lady slug cook chef mentor Yabba, who's kind of running the show, and all the weird alien regulars that get sucked up into the black hole but end up at this tiny little oasis or purgatory, depending on how you look at it. And it was just easy way to facilitate doing really contained, tight storytelling, but also spoke to kind of obviously how I feel as a young person. And like, there is just like a giant black hole like hanging behind us at all times, but to make jokes and write jokes in spite of that was something that appealed to me, to like ground humor in something kind of dark behind it.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's successfor in doing that. Sorry, I'm at my parents' house for the holidays. Worries. And my dog, I don't know if you can hear him, but her here, she's...
It adds character.
It does, yeah. I find that my listeners actually really enjoy like the atmosphere of like wherever like things are being recorded. So the dog will be a new one. We haven't had a dog on the show yet.
I should have stayed at home. Could have heard my screaming cat. Because my partner, he left to go like be with his family for the holidays. I'm working, la-di-da. But as a result, my cat's just meowing constantly because he's getting half the attention he's used to. Yeah. It's very difficult for him.
Yeah. They could have competed, the dog and the cat, for airtime. So you had mentioned your short film too. Were you referring to The Creator?
Yes.
I watched it. I loved it. Thank you. It was so good.
That's so kind.
Yeah. It was so beautiful. I was curious about like the inspiration for you behind making it.
Yeah. Okay. So I wrote a poem for it when I was 19, which is now like 6 years ago, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'd written the poem. I had always been in a habit of writing emo poetry. I always thought of it as being like totally sidelined to my like visual art practice because drawing was like such a big thing for me. And I feel like through college, I became more and more confident in my writing, which I very much credit to actually going to the University of Minnesota and like being in a more fine arts. Like I got a BFA, like all my classmates were painters and sculptors and like such, where basically I feel like that again made me more confident in the critical theory and the voice of it all. Whatever. Super long detour. Point is, I had this poem. Then the Disney like internship application came up for like their story artist position. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't really have anything in mind. Like I had only like a month to turn it around. And I was like, well, I have this poem. And I just, as I was writing it, the visuals were very clear to me of like this little goddess. And the poem was based on the idea of just, I grew up non-religious. And I think of like a creation myth as something very like abstracted to me. And I was like, well, what would it be like to like, be God and to make things, to like, the whole like making things for 7 days. And I'm like, it just must be fun and playful and beautiful. And I thought it would be really cool to lean into sort of retelling my own creation myth and getting to make Goddess like a little fat woman, and I based her off of the statue of the Venus of Willendorf.
Yeah, I thought so.
yeah, exactly. Where it's like there's something that feels so like primordial about like those shapes, and I made her blank white purely because I wanted the world to be so aggressively vibrant around her. So she's always kind of like this void blank spot like on screen. So that's kind of the visual inspiration, and then I was like, okay, well, I feel like it lends itself to the metaphor of like I was really worried about like social media at the time, and like I was so obsessed with posting my art online for people to see it and comment on it and like it and and I feel like I was just like, well, if you were God and mankind writes like books about like nature and the world that you've made and like sings songs to you and builds temples, like that's like the ultimate audience for your work, and how like exciting that would be. And then I wrap that all into my environmental fears about climate change, and that obviously kind of, this goddess lets mankind get a little too carried away and ruin the thing that she loved making. So that's a really long-winded explanation of why I ended up making this film that took me about almost 5 years to actually complete. And a big part of it was like, I got carpal tunnel halfway through. I joke, it survived two-year relationships. This film went through, and I went through 2 breakups, and I started working full-time at Make and directing Sunny Side Down for 3 years while still finishing it. So I really honestly appreciate the film as proof of endurance more than anything.
Absolutely.
Also, I'm sorry, do you hear rustling in the background or?
Mm-mm.
Okay. No. I was like, I told all my coworkers I'm going to be doing an interview. If it's okay,
well, I'll tell you, rustling compared to what's going on in the background over here is nothing.
I'm just going to be like, hey, whoever's opening boxes, could you do it later? Thank you.
No, it's no biggie. A little noise is okay. I'm going to just go get the dog because I don't know what's going on with her.
No worries. Take care of whatever you need to take care of.
Zoe, what are you doing? Why? I think she'll be better behaved if she's...
You've been so abandoned. You've been so abandoned. You're so cute.
Her name is Zoe. She's a poodle.
Hi, Zoe. You're happy now, aren't you?
This is what she wanted. I'm pretty sure she was just yelling at the TV remote. When I went in there, she was just facing the TV remote very aggressively. Oh, what a goofball. But yeah, back to your
It's
film.
Okay. I was like, is it weird if I ask you questions?
You can ask me questions.
Because I was like, I'm sorry if you've answered this in a previous interview, but I was just so interested as to why really you started this podcast. Because you write on your profile to share more of the lives of animators, but I mean, there must be more to it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, what made me think about it is I've been in like animation education for like 10 years. And but like my background wasn't in animation. It was more in like video and kind of fine art kind of stuff. So like being part of the animation world was like new to me. And just in my time being in that world, I was just like, I just love animators. I love animation. Like it's just so different than other creative like communities. Because also it was part of like a music community too. So I just feel like I've seen a lot of different creative communities, and then animation has felt like the most like, this is it, you know? And it has so much to do with the people. And something that I just noticed in like, you know, me having a more kind of just like, I don't know, like boots on the ground social experience with animators, was that like when I would hear animators like get interviewed or give talks or whatever, I always felt like it was so dry and like very much about like craft or the industry, which we have talked about so far, but like the questionnaire that you got is like very much not going to be like focused on that. And I'm just like, why is that like all that people are talking to animators about? Like, I was like, there's so much, like, they're so fun and like silly and like have a lot of interesting ideas, you know? And it's like, I'd be more interested to hear stuff like that. And I feel like other creatives get that kind of more personal intrigue, but animators, not so much. So it was kind of like balancing the scales in my mind. Like, I just like had the idea. I was like, somebody's got to ask them about stupid shit. And I was like, I can do that. I know how to do that, you know? So that was kind of the inspiration.
I totally agree. I appreciate it. Because, yeah, like even just listening to half of this like Tess Martin interview, like honestly for me, I was like, oh, you're getting to ask all the questions that I normally want to ask people that are way more about like, you know, like what's it like settling into the Netherlands, or like some of the funny things of like, oh, like I also struggle with obviously like whenever you're an animator, you don't fit into any category, right? And like applying for funding or trying to explain your work to other people. And
well, I'm glad that you feel that way. It's good to hear. It's working. My concept's working. We could get into the questionnaire. I think we're good. 1, what's your sign?
I'm a Pisces.
Pisces. Do you feel like you're very emotional?
Yeah. I also always kind of resented all the stereotypes around being a Pisces growing up, where they would always like, you would read the zodiac sign and they'd be like, you're a willowy dream girl that floats on the wind and doesn't have a single organizational bone in their body. Yeah. And then like, now as I'm older, I honestly realize I think I just resented the feminine association because I'm very much like in an androgynous lane. But everything is true. Like I did end up being an animation director and being very much, you know, a dreamer and everything. So I guess you can't escape somehow. But I do think it's kind of funny. Every single person I'm friends with is a Pisces. I don't know how that happened. Yeah. So
yeah, maybe you just relate to that energy the most.
There's just a lot of February birthdays, I guess. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of when is like the conception date for a February birthday. It's probably like early summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah. It's like you're excited. You're outside. Yeah.
It's hot.
Yeah. It's hot and it's going to get hot.
Oh, maybe because it's Minnesota. Maybe nobody's doing it in the winter.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's like everybody's like coming out after like a long...
Yeah. Let me out.
Yeah. I think that's probably it. Okay, 2. This is your surprise question, inspired by Sunny Side Down. What's your order at the diner?
Oh my God. Well, most of the things are inedible, but I do really kind of want to eat the egg, like the black yolk egg with like the magenta smiley face. I like to imagine that he like wants to be eaten. Like I don't want to think that he's suffering, but that I would definitely want to try the egg.
Okay. Yeah, the egg sticks out in my mind as well. Do you like when you go to a human diner? Is that what your order too?
No, at a human diner, I'm just in agony trying to choose between whatever the sweet option is and what the savory option is. So I'm like, oh my God, is it going to be French toast or is it going to be like a really tasty omelet? And then honestly, it's an Eggs Benedict. I feel like most of the time I go for an Eggs Benedict.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm always in that battle as well. But I find that savory always wins out for me.
Because you start being like all like an adult in your brain where you're like, well, I'm going to be tired so quickly if I just eat the sugary thing.
It's true. Yeah.
But if I'm lucky, I go with friends and then we can like split the sweet thing.
That's the way to go for sure. Okay. 3, have you listened to music today?
Yes, I am like, okay, recently I had to quit Spotify because I know we're all quitting Spotify for the ethics reasons.
Yeah.
But like before that, I was like in their top like 10% of worldwide users, which totally makes sense because all I do is I come into work and I like am writing or drawing with music on in the background. Like, and then I go home, also write and draw with music on in the background. So I'm clocking like 10-hour days.
Yeah. Amazing. So what did you listen to today?
Oh, okay. Currently I'm really into it's the like new Hayley Williams song, Parachute. She released like a solo album, and then also I listen to a lot of just trashy electro music. It helps me work.
That's fun. Yeah. I feel like that's like a good energy giving music for when you're working on stuff.
If I'm like working overtime or like really wrung out, I'll actually loop the same song for like 5 hours.
Wow.
It like tricks my brain into time warping. I don't know what it means.
I can understand that. Like, cause it's like, it almost becomes more meditative than like listening to music. Cause it's like, you're kind of like, you're just getting stuck in like a rhythm. And then that's, I feel like that's good for creativity for sure. Flow state. Okay, 4, what's your latest fixation?
There's always lots of them. I am kind of getting into birds because my partner's mom and sister are really into birding. I mean, his sister actually like is getting like a biology degree with like a focus on ornithology. So they just like, I love that, like when you meet new people and they kind of bring you into their fixation and you start like noticing things where I didn't realize, for example, in Minnesota, that there's like a very large opportunity to see these winter like snow owls that you can't maybe see in other areas where like people, like I didn't realize people like drive here to go see like a snowy owl like Hedwig. And that just really got me curious. Like, I want to drive and see one. And I just saw someone post that they saw one at the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport.
Oh.
Like, it's really close to town. Like, it's not even in the woods. So I don't know if they're still there, but I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. No, that's that's a fun hobby. I want to get more into that too. When I can be in a situation where I'm like just staring out and like watching birds. I really like it. It's like very peaceful but entertaining at the same time. I was walking in like Williamsburg recently and I looked up at a tree and there was like these 2 crows and a hawk. And like the crow, it was like they were just all like facing each other. It was like they were having like a little meeting, but the crow was just like yapping away. But it didn't seem like they were like having a disagreement or anything. But it was just like very funny. And like it was like me and this other lady just like were looking at it like, what the hell?
Yeah, it is times like that where you wonder what the hawk is thinking.
And also like I was like talking about it with people later and I was like, do birds like understand each other even if they're not the same type of bird? You know what I mean? Like, is there like a common, I was saying maybe it's like they share the same language, but they have different dialects, like, so it's like, maybe it's harder for them to understand each other, but.
I'll have to ask my partner's sister. Maybe she knows.
Does. Yeah.
I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
But and like it kind of ties in. I've already had long-standing hyperfixations on rocks and foraging because of my like Russian heritage, where all of my grandparents were geologists.
Oh, wow.
So like I grew up with like crazy rock collections and like can identify most minerals and stuff like that.
Wow.
And then Russians also just go foraging for mushrooms in the woods all the time. So growing up, I was horribly embarrassed by my mom like randomly eating berries off of like people's bushes in their front yard. And like we would just be walking in the woods and she would be like, you know, finding mushrooms and stuff. And I would be like, oh my God, Mom, like the other people can see you. And then now I'm older and I'm like, no, it's actually really cool. Like
It's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm from an Italian family, and my grandpa was really good at like mushroom identification foraging, and my mom regrets like not like learning from him.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, because that's definitely an art, because it's like, you know, such a fine line between delicious or death, you know.
Yeah, that confidence is definitely earned, right?
Yeah.
Through this like generational experience. And I definitely feel like each generation now gets less confident.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I feel like there's something about maybe like having access to all the answers through like the internet that we feel like less confident just like making kind of like maybe more of an intuitive decision.
Yes, that's actually such a funny point, right? Because you would think we would be way more confident about identification because you can Google all of the characteristics of a mushroom. But it is totally a vibe thing because, well, they all look lumpy and different really in the wild, right? There's no perfect Google image specimen. So yeah. And then I think the other thing is we're just way less, I mean, they say like my generation is the least risk-taking generation ever, where it's like you need to have that part of you that goes, I'm going to eat the mushroom. Like, and when you eat it and you don't die, you gain confidence that you can do it again. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're good at risk taking?
No. I think as an animator in general, like it's like being a control freak. Like, you know, you're like, I control every single moment happening on screen.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that's why working with a team is so awesome, because it helps me learn to be less of a control freak and to welcome other people doing their own thing and surprising me. So
yeah, that's good. That's like a good practice and like, expanding that part of you.
Yeah, because I feel like other artistic practices, maybe they have more room for quote unquote like mistakes or happy accidents. Like, I mean, even if you're just like a live action filmmaker, right? Like fundamentally, you don't control every aspect of the environment if it's not like, you know, inside a giant Warner Brothers stage, right? If you're like filming outside or with actors where actors are going to do their own thing, whatever. Versus, like as an animator, I think it can be almost damaging that we get used to everything being exactly as we intended. And then we like end up being really harsh on ourselves too.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is like baked into, I think, the nature of animation. It's like you do have to plan. It's not like
exactly you pre-plan everything and then you execute it.
Yeah.
Right. It's sort of other people can execute it and then collage it later, maybe.
Yeah. Totally. But yeah, I think there's room to try to like insert some improvisation into certain practices for animation. I always bring up this episode with Anne Beal. It's one of my earlier ones, and she's like experimental animator, but she does a lot of improvising in her practice. So it's like I think just like she draws, but maybe she doesn't know like what she's drawing and where it's headed, but she kind of just like lets it unfold as it's meant to be, or how it wants to be, without like putting too much kind of expectation or planning into it. And I feel like all animators can like use to like insert a little of that into what they do somehow.
I mean, I've always loved Don Hertzfeldt and World of Tomorrow, and it being based off of like the kind of random recordings he has of his niece is something where it's like, it just wouldn't be the work it is if he hadn't done that. So I'm always, I agree. I'm also just trying to find those things for myself too. The closest thing to that maybe on Sunny Side Down is working with both like the animators at Make that I work with, and also the voice actors that we got to cast, where it's like, okay, sure, I wrote the dialogue, let's say a certain way.
Yeah.
And it was super fun to let actors do their thing and be like, when you cast someone right, you're kind of like, well, you just sort of are the character. So let's just have you say all kinds of things. And then I got to collage it into something new in the edit. So there has been some room to play and let people bring their own thing.
Yeah. I always think that the voice acting element is so interesting with animation because it's like it happens so early and it really like kind of determines so many things.
Because like, for example, we have like our old lady Yabba, right? And she's like a chronic chain smoker. So like one of the main things I instructed her on was like to like sometimes interrupt herself with like a cough or that she's like smoking. And then like, how I edit that, like then like the animator assigned to it has to like match that cough or that smoking moment or exhale later. Like another moment of improvisation that I thought was so funny is like, I just love when like the animators on the team find new jokes to kind of layer in where there's one bit when like Yabba's talking to Nat and like Josh snuck in like Yabba's third arm to like swap out the cigarette instead of like the arm she'd been using before. And that still makes me laugh.
Yeah, that's so fun. Nice working on a team for like, reasons like that. Somebody surprises you with their ideas. Okay, we're at 5. What trend are you enjoying? And it could be any kind of trend, not prescriptive.
I'm like, I feel like it's definitely a trend of everyone logging off and like everyone's getting a dumb phone. Everyone's trying to do like in-person dating. Everyone's trying to go outside, like break their phone addiction. I really relate to that. I feel like actually like, especially with Sunny Side Down coming out, I mean, it's the first time I as a creator, am getting hundreds of comments on my work, like every week. Like, and that's been really interesting to manage where I'm like, it's easy to spend like a lot of time online now. And I'm doing my best to be like, nope, we gotta step away from the social media of it all to focus on the work I want to make, So I think that's a trend I'm really into. And I even got like that brick thing that to like be like, I would love to have more curated, I do not use my phone right now time.
I was curious about, you said just like with your work, getting a lot of attention and just like comments and stuff like that. Has that been hard? Because like, I imagine that, there's going to be lots of positive things, but there's always a critic out there, and like managing that kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like there's almost never been more critics of like animation in a way because indie animation overall is really having a moment. And I feel like with that, there's a certain type of like animation, quote unquote, fan that seems to bring like a lot of resentment around like either just like, you're putting your idea out there, but I didn't put my idea out there sort of thing. Or obviously there's also very real limitations on who's able to, make animation. And I understand it's very unusual that we can self-fund in this way. Yeah. But I guess what I mean to say is I think, there's a lot of people that unload their stuff in the comments and that doesn't really bother me too much because I'm kind of like, that's their own deal. I think what'll end up bothering me more is just hate comments I agree with. No. Like, right? Like, isn't it the worst to be like, this little feeling I had in the back of my mind about how this wasn't quite hitting right. Someone just perfectly confirmed it. So you're like, and also on top of that, I totally understand my own shortcomings of like being a first-time director, fresh out of school. Like I was totally learning on the job. There's lots of things I would do different about the show now. I'm still super proud of it. And I think I'm mostly proud of it because of everyone else that brought their flavor to it, where now I feel like it's my job to kind of push it as hard as I can for their sakes, to be like, well, Munghan, she had to draw like, 100 backgrounds on this and they all are like so beautiful with like rich detail. And she really thought about the color and the composition and everything. So it's just like, okay, like for everyone's sake, I need to like try to like keep pushing this forward. But obviously I'm like, I have to remind myself that like it makes sense that I am learning, that the next thing I direct, I always will probably feel is, you know, better than the previous thing. So I would say, I think it's more like I'm trying to get better at not like reading into comments as a confirmation of all my own worst fears about myself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel like it can be really like destructive to your sense of self, and then it's too with your creativity, like making you second guess like maybe your natural like instincts, and like it can corrupt things. It's so hard. It's so hard to just be out there in the world like that, you know?
I would also say like my position is kind of different from maybe, again, like just like a more pure independent filmmaker. Like again, with creator, I had complete control over every decision versus here, you know, obviously Danny still gets a say. Like when I started out, there were directors still above me that got a say in the writing and the structure. So part of what also I'm trying to navigate is when I'm kind of like, oh, well, I didn't make all of these decisions like independently, right? And it's not just my own tastes. Like if you put me in a vacuum, I actually probably would have never directed a sci-fi parody show. But in a way, I really love that. I love that it pushed me to become a better comedy writer, to do something outside of my normal MO. But that's like another aspect where sometimes like there'll be a comment and I'll just be like, there's that childish urge to be like, it wasn't me. I know it says I'm the director, but you know, and then to be like, no, like, I think you still have to kind of own and be proud of like what you do in collaboration too. So anyways.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. 6, what talent would you most like to have?
Oh, I really wish I was more musically gifted. I think especially as an animator, like it's such a time-based medium. And then I really came into it from the visual direction, right? Of like drawing, you know, and I went kind of more into comics and then got to animation. But I feel like there's so many amazing animators whose work is elevated because they also can compose their own music. And that's like done in tandem versus normally I'll like think of the visuals and create them almost to final and then pass it off to, like, for example, Sunny Side Down. We've completely, let's say, locked all of the animation and we give it to Steve Horner, our composer, and then he just like makes something happen. And so and also like in middle school choir, like I was practically tone deaf. Like I was really trying my best, but I was not often hitting the right notes. So it's like, you know, you have the stories you tell yourself about like, I'm not good at this thing. And so I hope at some point in my life, I will have time to challenge that thought more and like try to pick up an instrument or understand music better. But I just have never had any bandwidth to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll find the time eventually. Because I'm just thinking of my parents' friend. She's like 80 and she's like taking piano lessons for the first time. And it's like, you know, that's such like a cool thing. It's probably so good for your brain. You know, and I mean, I think anybody can learn some kind of an instrument, like can find their instrument, you know.
I don't know. I tried ukulele for a little bit and like they say it's the easiest one. And I was not having an easy time.
That takes a lot of coordination though, I feel like, you know what I mean? Because it's like just anything that's like a guitar type thing of like, just like having your fingers in the right place and pressing down hard enough in order for it to make a difference, and then you're strumming, and that's a lot. It's a lot to think about, you know.
Okay, you're probably right. What's a talent that you wish you had?
What if I was like animation? I wish it was like I can do it in my own little way, but like I wish it was like, to me it's very like intimidating to be like, I'm going to make a whole animation, you know what I mean? So then like I get intimidated, but I've been working on a little something recently, just to kind of like not like similar to kind of what we're saying of just like learning it. Like it's like let's just like do it. There's no pressure on it or anything. I'm just working on it when I have the time, when I feel like it, kind of thing, you know.
I think it would be super fun to challenge you to submit to the next television open call.
I should do that. Yeah.
They're so good at like exactly what I was talking about like, you know, animators are kind of control freaks. I feel like what they do is so perfect at like, they got me to make something that I would think is kind of ugly, but then I really loved it when it was done. So like, yeah.
I love like really unfinished looking kind of anime. I mean, it's like sometimes it's my favorite.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should do that. You're right. Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, because you got some time. I feel like they won't open the next one probably until like the spring. So
yeah, excited to see what the theme is going to be then.
Me too. Yeah.
I'll do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 7. What's something that you believe to be overrated?
Oh, there's so many things. Okay, you know what? I'll say it. ChatGPT.
Totally
Completely overrated.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually help you do like anything.
Yeah.
It just helps you avoid critically thinking.
I hate when like I Google things now that like the first thing because it's like it's so easy to just be like, okay, you know, and I really try to just like skip over it and like really look at the actual like, you know, links of things, you know, but
it's so funny you bring that up because I have the exact same problem of like, I mean, they are literally creating like an aggressive UI where it's like, it is almost impossible to not read that blurb at the top. And like your brain's trained into doing it. I'm catching myself reading it almost all the time. And I love my partner because he'll always be like, oh my God, did you just read the AI summary? He's like, he's good at being like a purist about it. And then I'm like, oh, can you just let me get away with it just this once? But there really is the risk that it's collaging something completely untrue.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, well, maybe eventually, you know, there'll be some more laws or something. But then I know that Trump just like is getting rid of like the possibility of making laws. So I mean,
they're like no laws. Yeah. So I guess, I think saying that it's overrated is helpful because I spend honestly too much time on LinkedIn where it is very highly rated. And honestly, I feel like it kind of lumps into also just the idea of it's overrated to maximize your productivity and output and like automate processes. Like the whole thing about animation is like, yeah, it is really inefficient, and that's kind of awesome. Within reason. Okay, Yuri Norstein is spending 36 years on his paper cutout animation. Maybe don't be Yuri Norstein. I do love him. But yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. I feel like I had something else to say. I will say that like I definitely don't, because it's very much a choice. I think like ChatGPT, like you don't have to use. You know what I mean?
No. There's been a study that women use AI like a significantly smaller percentage than men.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Isn't that very interesting?
So it's like I feel like glad that for the most part, it's like, to me, it feels like it's a decision for me, you know? But then like, with the Google thing, that really frustrates me because that's not a choice. It's like you're making me. You know,
I think unfortunately it will not be. Yeah, I think it will be forced upon us in many ways. I mean, especially in commercial spaces, AI is so prevalent. So I think as artists, I think we're all like kind of waiting to see how it's going to evolve. And I think just my number one wish is for like, I mean, I hope to have kids, and it's just I really want them to be in a learning environment and world where it's not forced on them, that there's some freedom there.
Lots remains to be seen, I guess, you know. And I mean I just feel like the only thing that makes me feel like, I guess, hopeful is that like I just feel like most people are just like not into it. It's just this like corporate push, you know, which is powerful, of course, but like I just think in terms of like I feel like we have choice in the matter, you know.
I do get what you mean, but not to be doomer about it. I feel like the economic reality is so dire, right? I just feel like people always are essentially forced into compromising their ethics when if your like ability to hold down a job is connected to AI, like if like 40% of the country's GDP, like they're saying like an insane amount of our economy is linked to the AI bubble right now, where it's like a lot of people who are earning money are related to AI processes. I mean, a lot of artists I know make money making ads for AI companies, right? Like, isn't that kind of funny? They always pay like hand-drawn artists to make their ads, which is so interesting. Anyways, and I really don't judge those artists on the level of like, there's no one else paying right now. So, yeah. Anyways.
But I guess I feel like optimistic that it is a bubble that will burst.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, it's growing faster than the what's the word? Infrastructure that it needs, you know what I mean, to thrive.
The positive spin on this would be to say that it's never been more valuable to make your own work and to read and to write. Like if so many people are willingly giving that up, then you're actually just kind of getting a leg up.
Mm-hmm. True. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
8, what's underrated?
I feel like I guess I sort of kind of answered that. Where it's like, you know, like, yeah, like reading and like writing an essay from scratch and drawing from scratch.
Yeah.
But I'll try to think of something else maybe that's a little more fun. Honestly, Americans, I feel like they are sleeping still on tea. I feel like tea is underrated.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like everyone got onto matcha, but I feel like they don't really even think of it as tea. I feel like tea overall still underrated. Like there's more than matcha. There's oolong, black tea.
Yeah.
I love all kinds of tea. And I feel like, again, people will drink like bubble tea if it has like, you know, chewy stuff and a lot of sugar in it. And I'm not even hating because I love bubble tea, but just like a hot cup of tea, the return on value for like a box is incredible. I think more people should get on it.
Yeah. I'm with you. I always talk about coffee on this podcast because I'm like a coffee person, but I love tea. I was sick last week. I needed lots of tea, and whenever I'm sick, I'll definitely have tea. And I love just as much as I love coffee, I love like a jasmine green tea. You know, it's like so good, so delicious, and the energy you get from tea is like, I think, better actually. You know? Yeah.
I have like this chronic condition called POTS. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I know POTS.
It just means like my nervous system is a little haywire, so like tea doesn't trigger that at all. It smooths everything out. And the other thing that's cool is there's like all kinds of like native plants that you can forage to make tea out of. So there's this one called fireweed, and it grows both in Russia and in Minnesota.
Oh.
And you can ferment it, and it kind of makes a caffeine-free black tea substitute.
Ooh, yeah.
Anyways, I'm obsessed with this stuff.
Yeah. So. And also, there's so many like amazing like medicinal properties with tea too.
Yeah.
Like I love peppermint tea. Fresh peppermint tea is like so good, and it's good for your stomach if you're having tummy problems. And I'm always like prescribing myself tea for like whatever's going on with me.
Yeah. If you think about it, when it's winter, it's just like low effort soup.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Sorry, I keep thinking of more things that are more things that are underrated.
Keep it going.
I mean, like, so there's this book, okay? Master and Margarita. Some people would probably argue that it isn't underrated because in like classical literary circles, like people really like it. But it's just been a book that I've always been obsessed with. It's like about how the devil comes to Moscow in like Stalin era Russia. And all kinds of like chaos ensues, and it's sort of like he's revealing the true nature of people. And there's like an ensemble cast, and it's so funny and surreal, and like it was written in like the 1930s. Anyways, so I think that book is really underrated. I think there's like a bajillion amazing short films being released online all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like a collective problem we all have of like, I know that there is amazing work out there that is not being seen. And it is being underrated in that way. And I want to figure out how can I, one, see it, and like two, how can I get more other people to see it?
Yeah.
And it used to be, you know, stuff like Vimeo staff picks and, you know, yada yada. But I've been really trying to figure out ways to like post like curated lists of stuff that I like on my feeds, to at least be like, wouldn't it be great if we all got in the habit of recommending each other's stuff again, so that like we could show the good films to each other?
Totally. Agreed. I have, for the podcast, I have playlists that I make of the...
I saw that.
Yeah. One of the things that like, you know, like, so like you're, you know, as a guest of the podcast, we'd show like your stuff, but then also just like what the stuff that we talk about on the show, so that more people can watch it. And I love having that, because then I watch more stuff too. But even like myself, I have like, it's like they're my playlists, and like I still haven't gotten through like all of the stuff, you know, there's so much stuff. But I love short films. Yeah. I love short films.
And I mean, we live in it's so weird because like, okay, we're kind of in a moment where animation as an industry is like sort of crashing out a little. But at the same time, like there's such abundance, right? Like so many people are making stuff at night, making stuff while having a day job. Like digital animation with Procreate and all this other stuff is more accessible than it's ever been. So like I'm trying to stay hopeful about that, where it's like even with all the AI stuff, I see more teenagers animating rather than less.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like, because it's easy to find stuff if you're curious, you know, as like a young person, I think. And, you know, to find like a more representative view of like what animation can be, because I think that's something that we talk a lot about on the show too, is like a lot of people, it's like, oh, I wanted to be an animator, but then like I was confused because like I didn't want to like work at Disney, and I wasn't really sure how to bridge the gap, you know? And then it's like, you know, hopefully you go to a college and you get exposed to like every kind of animation that there is, you know what I mean? But it's like, if you're just like a kid on YouTube, you can see it all, you know? If you can find it, you know, which I think you can.
I think now is just such an interesting turning point where it's like, I fundamentally think working at these large studios is becoming not even like a viable path for most people. I mean, obviously, you know, Disney just inked that deal with OpenAI. Like, I really desperately hope that with like indie animation, we see the rise of more people like owning their own like stories. And I hope that it, you know, lifts the waters for both like experimental work and more traditional storytelling work. I mean, honestly, the experimental animators on YouTube again really paved the way. Like Don Hertzfeldt was putting in numbers before anybody else. So
okay, 9. What's the story of your name?
Wow. There's some pretty good stories. I'll start with my last name. Okay. My last name is Poteryakhin. It's pretty hard for most people to pronounce. I understand it's Russian. It translates to one who loses.
Ooh.
Yes. Which is pretty funny. I used to jokingly say that my last name literally meant loser, but it's a little bit like inaccurate because it really means like one who loses something, which is a bit different from like loser. Like, right. But and the mythology behind it is that like my family comes from like Cossack warriors on the border of Russia, and like, you know, there was like some battle to defend the village, and then like my ancestor, he like, you know, rides back into town, and they're like, you did so great, dude, like we're gonna all honor you with a ceremony, like kind of like a knighting. And then they're like, okay, so like, where's your sword? And he's like, oh, I lost it. And so they like dubbed him like loser.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's like the first layer story. Okay. So that's like kind of where it came from. The second layer story is that it's actually my great grandmother's last name. It's not my great grandfather's last name.
Oh.
She kept her name, which is kind of really cool.
Very cool.
Big part of it is it was right after World War II in Russia. And like my, I guess actually, is it great grandfather? It might be my great great grandfather. Sorry. One more layer. Was German. And it was like total no-go. I mean, like Germans were like worse than dirt. Okay. After like 29 million Russians died. So they were like, okay, well, we'll just like stick with your last name as like from like the perspective of a family unit. But the important thing is that they never even got married, because you have to remember when like millions of young men die, the gender balance ratio was really bad. Like it was skewed very heavily. There were a lot more women around. And so unfortunately, like a lot of men would not necessarily be like faithful to their wives. So my great great grandmother got put in the gulag for like a year or two because she was an accountant and she was framed by her boss for embezzling like from like the communist like public stores. But it was him. He was the one.
Oh my God.
He just made her be the fall guy because she's like the accountant.
Yeah.
She didn't know anything about it, obviously. Anyway, she goes to prison. And meanwhile, like this other guy goes and has like affairs with other women. And when she came back, she was like, I'm not doing anything with you, which is really cool, by the way, because like a lot of women didn't do that. They were like, no, I need, someone to provide.
Yeah.
And she like passed on her name to like their children.
Yeah.
And so I've always been very proud of my last name.
Yeah.
I've always
so
felt like
cool.
if I got married, I would keep my name.
Love it. You got it.
Yeah.
It's like a hard-earned name, you know?
Yeah. Okay, and then my first name is just from my grandmother on my dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
So we're both Natalia Poteryakhin, but you write, even though if your name's Natasha, you'll write Natalia if you're Russian. Like how people who are Daria or Dasha or people who are, it's like the common nickname. And it's really funny because it means literally, technically, Merry Christmas. Like Natalia is like, comes from like natal, like the birth of Jesus.
Yeah.
But I'm not religious. So, yeah.
It's your season though now.
I know.
Merry Christmas.
I guess everyone's just celebrating me right now.
Yes. That's so cool. I love that you have so much like knowledge of that's like deep knowledge of like your family history, you know?
Yeah, I guess like it was something I didn't really realize was uncommon, and that like I met both of my great grandmothers before they died in Russia, and like again like I like spoke Russian growing up, and like I felt very like connected to my background, and then like as I was getting older, I was just like, oh, like the people around me, they don't really know like a lot of stuff from their grandparents or anything like that. I mean, my parents like would explicitly talk about all the time, like how both my great grandfathers survived World War II, like by the skin of their teeth, by yeah. And so all the time, it's like the classic immigrant kid thing of like, I feel grateful and humbled by how easy my life is compared to what my like ancestors like went through. Not even that long ago. I say ancestors, like just my grandmother, you know, like my grandmother was born into a house with no electricity, right? And like 5 siblings or whatever. And then ended up becoming like a geologist and like deriving uranium. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. I love it. Okay. 10. What did or do your parents do for a living? It sounds like the gemologist thing is a family tradition, but
no, my dad ended up becoming a software engineer.
Okay.
He was just like a math nerdy guy, but he grew up in the middle of the desert in Uzbekistan because my grandparents were geologists. So he had a very interesting upbringing. But he just ended up meeting my mom in college. She was like a history / like economics major. She kind of didn't really know what she wanted to do. They ended up getting married really young, like 20, had my brother. My dad got a job in the US 5 years later, and they moved here. So in that sense, if my dad had not become a software engineer, I would probably not even be like an animator or be in the US. Like, I feel like it was just very lucky timing that he learned a skill that was very much in demand in the early 2000s. So
Yeah. And then do you just have the one brother?
yeah, and he's also in tech.
Gotcha.
So I'm the poor one for sure.
Was your family, you had kind of alluded to this earlier, but like ultimately have they been like supportive of you pursuing like a creative career?
Yes, I think the only thing is just that they worry about me, and I get it because I worry about me.
Yeah.
Like when I made this decision, like to pursue art full-heartedly, first of all, in high school, like I think in a way it kind of benefited that they were so skeptical because that made me push really hard to prove that it was viable. So like that's kind of why I pursued that mentorship, and I would go downtown to like St. Paul twice a week to shadow like in a studio while like working on my short film and like doing the internships and doing everything where I was like, hey, look, like I know these people in the Minneapolis area, like that they make a living doing this. Like I felt like I really had to show them that it was possible before they were like, okay, yeah, like go for it. And I think they both really respect that it is like something I'm very passionate about, which is like, you know, cliche, but like they obviously like, I think there's been a lot of very, very hard moments in my life or like mental health or physical health where my love for the work has kept me going versus I feel like if I did something else, I probably would make more money, but maybe at those crucial points I would have given up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's great that you have that thing and that you have the family support.
Yeah, I think the main thing that obviously any artist worries about is I also like want to have a family and like want to build a more stable life, and obviously the income can be more tricky for an artist. So
Yeah.
I really hope I will figure out how to do both.
I think you will.
Thank you.
Okay. 11, what were you like in high school?
I just drew all the time. I filled like a sketchbook a month. I didn't really talk to most people. I was way more introverted seeming than I am now. I would say now I'm aggressively extroverted and talk too much, as exemplified by this interview. But in high school, I like didn't really have that much in common with anybody. So I would just draw in class all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did this program called CISA animation in California, which is like a pre-college program when I was 16. That had like a huge impact on me because I suddenly felt like, wait, I am extroverted because there were like 50 other high schoolers there for like this animation program. And I was like, I can connect with every single one of them.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I suddenly wanted to talk to everyone. So that really made me think, oh, I'm not introverted at all.
Yeah.
It was just like the environment. And I think it's also worth bringing up like the program because I was very lucky that a bunch of like really amazing experimental animators from like the CalArts MFA program were heading up CISA at the time. And I really think they set me like on a good direction. Like I appreciate that they got me out like that. You know, you talked about that like whole Disney Pixar framework thing. I feel like they really early got me out of that framework, and they were celebrating a lot of the animation that I grew up with, like Yuri Norstein's Hedgehog in the Fog and the Soviet stuff I loved, where I was kind of like, wait, first of all, like other people know about it. And then also they would show me all this other cool new stuff that I hadn't heard of. So that really made me catch the bug.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm so distracted by the
Zoe.
song.
Yeah.
She's all like, I don't know what she's doing. She keeps like lunging, like there's something like over there. It's so funny. I've been joking with my mom because this is the house that I like grew up in, and it's a really old house. Like it's from like, it's probably 250 years old, you know?
Wow.
And so we were just like talking about like the history of the house the other day, and my mom was like, you know what's like wonderful too is that we don't have any ghosts. And I was like, I'm sure you have ghosts. Like, it's old. And, like, definitely people have died here. You know what I mean? She's like, no, but, like, nobody's, like, stuck here. You know what I mean? But I'm like, there's ghosts here. And so I've been joking that, like, the dog has been kind of, like, you know, so I'm, like, the ghosts are making themselves known to her. The
Yes.
dog seeing the ghosts.
I always joke that it's important cat business whenever like the cat suddenly is like on alert and like
Yeah.
dashes off.
Yeah. I love that. Important dog business.
Yeah.
12. What's the first work of art of any kind that made a meaningful impact on you as a child?
I mean, I think, I have to go back to like the Soviet cartoons, specifically the Russian Winnie the Pooh.
Oh.
It has nothing in common with the Disney Winnie the Pooh because it was translated by like a Soviet like master poet who just rewrote it to be whatever he wanted. And then they animated it and they called it Winnie Pooh. And you can find it for free on YouTube if like anybody listening looks it up.
Oh, he's cute.
Yeah, so it's from the 60s and it's so funny and I feel like it's still left an impact on me that they just didn't really make children's media, I feel like, thinking about it obviously remotely how we do, where they're all like, well, here's your target demographic and here's the educational component. Like they just made things that were genuinely entertaining to both children and adults, kind of almost like Bluey style, which now people are acting like it's some new like revolutionary thing. And I feel like, no, we're the ones that put the media into arbitrary boxes. So many amazing experimental animators were in the children's space. And also, there's this other short called Bremenski Muzikanty, or like the Bremen town musicians, based off of like the Brothers Grimm fairy tale. That was like totally like bringing in like Beatles rock and roll and like hippie like 60s fashion, or maybe 70s, sorry, like 70s fashion to like Soviet audiences when it was technically forbidden. So a lot of people like really loved the music of that short. And yeah, I love that they have really scratchy, like pencil-y textured backgrounds. Yeah. And that's something I think is funny because Sunny Side Down is a very like polished style looking show. But I feel like if you look at a lot of my personal work, I'm still really drawn to like super scratchy, loosey-goosey stuff. So
yeah. I love that kind of stuff too. Okay, 13. What character from an animation do you relate to the most?
I feel like this was always hard. I feel like I've, I don't know. Like it's a weird one because I feel like when a film is done well, I'll just relate to anyone.
Sure.
So it's like, that's like the beauty of it is to be like, I'm 100%, like I just feel like I'm them, even if they're really different from me.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I definitely really related to like Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. I feel like that's a classic one for artists because like, you know, she's both like stubborn, but also like passionate. And like when she like loses her spark, it's very relatable where you're kind of like, I don't know how to do this anymore. So I always go back to that. 14, what character from an animation did you or do you have a crush on? I did read this one in advance and I was thinking about it. And I was like, this is maybe cringe, but I believe it full-heartedly. Okay. Roy Mustang from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's an anime. He is so hot. And when I like first saw that show when I was like 13, I was like, oh my God. It's just like, I love a man who's committed to his ideals. It's a great quality. Yes. So I feel like he really hits that for me. But then the other person is his like companion, Riza Hawkeye. It's truly bisexual panic. Okay. So
were they a couple?
Sort of. It's like, will they, won't they?
Gotcha. I love it. Classic.
Yes. Anyways. No, but anyways, I was actually genuinely rewatching this show recently because it's like it's written by a woman and it's like a 60 episode, like very intense political drama about like a fascist government. Yeah. And I was thinking about how it was crazy that I watched that like when I was 13 in the context of like, oh, it's an anime. Right. But like actually the storytelling in it is really good. Like I would highly recommend to anyone where it's like, it's actually like about how do you like survive and like make good choices in like an oppressive regime. Yeah. So anyways. Yeah. 15, which animator do you most admire? I feel like I already kind of said Don Hertzfeldt. I feel like the fact that he's managed to kind of just make independent filmmaking his thing is really cool. Yeah. I also do have to just bring up my old mentor, like Emery Allen. I feel like the way that he's continued to like balance kind of making his commercial career and also making his personal work over the last like 20 years is really admirable to me. And he's like still stretching and pushing into new stuff. Like he just wrote a feature script. Out of like more recent filmmakers, I feel like anytime like trying to think, there's a couple of different people. The list is long. There's lots of really good animators out there. I feel like Anatola Howard, maybe he goes by Tola. I would have to double check. Amazing, both like comic artist and filmmaker. That inspires me all the time.
16, what is your favorite feature animation?
It's always funny how it's like you totally know these things until you get asked it, and then you're like, I've never seen any film before.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Princess Mononoke has to be up there. I feel like naming a Ghibli film can be tough because in a way it feels like everyone will love a Ghibli film for a different reason. And so like I think it is always interesting to hear why people like the ones that they like. But I just think Princess Mononoke from like a writing perspective is so good at just showing how different people's way of life interacts and hurts each other and like their relationship to nature.
Yeah.
And it makes a judgment but doesn't make a judgment at the same time, which is always hard to do.
Okay, and then 17, what's your favorite short animation?
Yes, my favorite short animation is the French title is like Mon ami qui brille dans la nuit, which is like my friend which like shines in the dark. And it's a Gobelins graduation film that I've always been obsessed with. It's about like a ghost whose spirit gets knocked down from the sky like in their journey and like kind of runs into this like very grounded electrician who is helping this ghost try to like help them pass on. And it's so funny and charming. The background style is so cool. It's like a slightly collaged live action look, which is really cool. And it just genuinely made me feel a bit better about death, which I feel like that's always like the highest compliment I can give any work of like, I feel like being afraid of dying is like such a core thing that so many people have. And any piece of art to me that makes me feel even slightly comforted in that fact, and especially to do it as a short film felt really impressive to me. Yeah. Because like, you know, it's like a big thing to grab a hold of. And it's like, it makes me cry at the end every time. So I really love that film. Like that's a good example of a film where to me, I'm like, it's underrated. It should have millions of views, you know?
Yeah.
And I do have to name a second Gobelins film that I really love. It's called like Dance with the Seashells. And
I think my friend Nicole, who was on the show, mentioned that one. That's one with the guy in the shrimp costume.
Yes. Yeah. That's like another one where it's good to watch if your heart has like sort of been feeling heavy about like life or anything. Like that's when I love animation also, where it's not being like fake upbeat. It's like truly just showing you like the beauty in life, and it's so charming and the music in it is so strong. Anyways, so those are my two top, I think.
Good ones. I was curious about fear of death. Do you think that's something that like you think about a lot and like are viscerally like affected by, or is it just like it will suck? You know, what's your relationship to death?
I feel like I don't think about it that much, but I'm super interested in art that like kind of deals with it in any meaningful way, because it just feels like the biggest like quote unquote like unsolved problem of life. Like I feel like there's lots of amazing art that can help soothe me with grief, with losing a friend, with heartbreak, with falling in love, with all these, experiences that we have. And like death is the hard one because like obviously anyone who's been to the other side isn't back. So I think it like gives an extra layer of difficulty maybe for an artist to be like, how can I communicate this or like talk about this? And then also I'm not religious at all. So I feel like I think about it more maybe than others would because I don't think I'm like about to get some second afterlife. I'm not very spiritual. I kind of just think I am a sack of meat and bones that's gonna my body will just give up on me, and then that's it for my lived experience.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like anything that speaks to that in a way that makes it like, tolerable.
Yeah, that helps. You definitely to make sense of it.
There's a video game called Outer Wilds that I think is super amazing and is like the closest piece of media that I've ever had like speak to the concept of like ending. Yeah. Like that. And like, because it's a video game, I think it works better almost than any other media because you're like you're literally living this experience that ends. So I highly recommend that game. Like, I think if you're somebody who's not really like a video game person, that's a game I recommend because it's not structured like a traditional video game. And for people who maybe just like enjoy more like, I don't know, traditional literature or other stuff, that's what I would recommend.
Yeah. Cool. It sounds interesting.
And it's like also technically it should count as animation, right? Like it's 3D animation if you think about it.
You're making me think that maybe I need to add a video game question as like part of my standard question because it is animation.
Yeah. I think that it's a good example of like, animation is a weird thing in that arguably we should be like the least segmented from everyone else because we like bring together all these other art forms. Yeah. But it's like sometimes people don't think about it that way.
No, yeah. I gotta think on that one. Yeah. So I'm not like a gamer myself, so it's like it doesn't occur to me, that's like
no, something. Me neither. I got lucky that someone like showed me this thing where they're like, no, you're gonna like this. And I was like, they were right.
Yeah.
Now I'm laughing to myself because I'm like, if we just called video games like interactive VR experience, like experiential multimedia, like, you know what I mean? I just feel like the word game I feel like is what like is actually throwing people off on what it could be.
Yeah, I can see that. Definitely. Yeah, we gotta find better words for it. Because something about game makes it seem frivolous.
Yeah.
But it's like it's an art as well.
Like books have the opposite problem. Where every book gets like so much street cred for being like serious, even if it's literally like the trashiest novel like of all time.
It's like I read books.
Yeah. I don't play games. Yeah. I read books. And it's like some of the books have a lot less to offer than a game.
It's true. Okay. 18, what characteristic are you most drawn to in other people?
I think definitely just kind of like straightforwardness, but it has to be like blended with kindness. Like some people are obviously straightforward and like they're trying to harsh people's vibe way, which is not good. But people who are obviously like just very transparent and sharing their feelings or their thoughts and their struggles. I feel like it's very cliche, but I feel like everyone likes that because you feel less alone and you feel like you can talk to them about anything.
Feel like you know where you stand with them.
Yeah. I'm also like, and with that, I'm also just drawn to people who are gonna like share stories about their life because then, I can learn through their experiences and I'm honored that they're sharing it with me.
That's nice. I like that. I guess I like that too because
yeah, then you have a podcast.
I'm soliciting stories.
Exactly.
Okay, 19. When did you feel most discouraged about pursuing your creative path?
I feel like there's one of those like once a year, honestly. But I think the worst was just like really health related in my college years, where I both was finding out that I had this chronic condition, like figuring out that I had POTS, and then I also developed carpal tunnel from overwork.
Yeah.
And so it kind of felt like animation is such a competitive like field to like try to make a living off of it, that it felt like if I can't work 15 hours a day, like that I can't make this work. And I feel like I kind of stuck with it purely out of just like kind of stubbornness, which is good, but also I was very lucky to have resources, and that it was the pandemic. I kind of just went and stayed with my parents for a while. I started doing physical therapy for my carpal tunnel in my wrist, and I actually like did not draw for like 4 months, which was really tough on me. Like I totally like didn't realize how much of a coping skill it was.
Yeah.
And that kind of helped me dive more into writing, which is kind of good now. And I just had to have like total blind faith that I was going to like get better and be able to draw full time, because at the time it felt like it would be impossible to even draw for an hour a day, much less 8 hours a day. And now, you know, sometimes I'm going to draw 10, 12 hours a day, and I know how to manage that, and I know how to make that happen. And you have to work out, and you have to like do all this stuff that artists never really talk about, like kind of treating yourself like an athlete almost.
Yeah.
And I just feel very grateful that I got better, but also there was definitely like just the worry of like, well, I was literally like 20, and I was like, well, if my wrist is busted at 20, what's going to happen to me at 40? Like, is there no longevity in this path for me? And then I feel like I kind of honestly have a secondary issue with that again now with like AI, right? I think every visual artist right now is having that question of like, is the fundamental value of my work economically being like taken away from me? Like, they can't take the value of my work like on a human level from me, but the economic value is what allows us to build our craft. Like, I thought that I had my whole life ahead of me to do what Miyazaki did, to do what all these like filmmakers that I look up to did, and to be like, how can I just economically facilitate that time to still draw and develop my worlds is really hard. And I just have to believe, like, again, it's kind of, I feel like it always ends up being this blind faith thing, which is so funny for being an atheist, where it's like, you have to be like, okay, I don't see the path forward right now, and I have to trust that in 3-4 years it's going to be more obvious.
Yeah. 20, when were you most embarrassed?
Just in my life?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess maybe overall I'm kind of lucky on, I feel like there hasn't been anything too horrible. Like, there's nothing that's like, okay, actually, I just thought of one. I thought of one. It's not really, again, it's more like regret, I guess, but basically there was a girl in my 8th grade class who I thought looked exactly like the tall female chipmunk from Alvin and the Chipmunks, the one with glasses. Like if you saw her, you would understand, okay? Like, she literally looks like her. Like, she had the same hair, same glasses, everything. And I, like, in a total spurt of whatever, just like said this to her. Yeah. And I meant it as a compliment in my own weird 8th grade mind.
Aww.
Yes, I was just like, oh, like, you look like the nerdy chipmunk, you know? And like the little jean jacket and everything. Yeah. It was like, you know. And anyways, I told it to her, and I just saw her face crumple. Like, you know, when you just see someone have like a defining like self-esteem hit. And I tried to roll it back, where I was like, no, I didn't mean the chipmunk part. Yeah. And then she's like, well, then what part? Anyways, so I did not dig myself out of that hole. Yeah. And it's so funny because I was on Instagram recently, and she has like kids now.
Does she still look like Jeanette?
I can't say that. She could be listening.
She's a listener.
But I've regretted that always. Aww. Where I'm just like, that was a good example of like, that is something I do that I'm not super proud of just like, I have a thought. To me, it's a completely innocent thought. Yeah. And I just kind of, I share things in a very unfiltered way. Yeah. And I'm not wise enough to sometimes stop and like be like, okay, is this a helpful thought? Like, will other people interpret this the same way as you? Like, but that's why I meant to say I end up being drawn to people who are also unfiltered, because then I think there's more room for forgiveness, for people to understand that I'm not going to believe the same thing forever. And I don't always mean exactly what I say. And that like, they'll just ask me straight up like, oh, like, what did you mean by that? Rather than like secretly being like, ooh,
yeah,
why did you say that? Like, yeah. You must hate me. Or,
because I mean, it sounds like you weren't saying anything malicious, but it was like a misunderstanding of like what you're like what you meant versus how she received it,
Yeah, where I have this whole vision of like, what if she's thought about that like every day of her life? But I try to remember that I'm not that important.
Yeah, hopefully she just forgot about it.
Yes, I really hope she forgot about it. But like, again, like sometimes you see in people's eyes where you're like, you're not going to forget this. Like they're trying to like hold back tears.
Yeah,
like
this is a core memory now.
Yeah.
Okay, 22. Are you spiritual? But you've been saying that you're not so religious. But spirituality, can be a broad term too.
Yeah, like there's like the closest thing isn't it kind of funny? Okay, you're not gonna get this, but it's really funny to me that this question is number 22. Because 22 is my lucky number.
Interesting.
So that's the closest thing I could be like to like, I do weirdly kind of like, I'll be like quote unquote superstitious and that I have a lucky number. And like, if I see 22, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a good day or like whatever. But the way I've always justified it to myself is I have like a lot of anxiety. I've like always struggled with anxiety. And part of that is like sometimes you gotta fight fire with fire, where I was sort of thinking like I'm not allowed to have negative superstitions. Like if I think like, oh, that's a bad omen, I'm like, that's not real. Omens aren't real. That's not logical or rational. But I'm allowed to have irrational good omens because I already have so much anxiety. We have to sometimes irrationally believe that good things will happen to just like lighten the vibe. So I think everyone should be allowed to have irrational good omens.
I think that's good. I also had to have that conversation with myself because I like got really into this idea that like, oh, like maybe I am having premonitions, and then it's like, it's just a slippery slope,
That is a slippery
slope. So I was
going to say,
I don't have premonitions. Not part of my makeup.
Be careful. A lot of people can develop an OCD theme around that. Yeah. Because if you think you have premonitions, you think you can prevent bad things. And that is you should never put that pressure on yourself. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. I think it was like, I had just like a few things happen that felt like beyond explanation, So then I was like, oh, cool. But then I was like, oh no, So,
I have really bad deja vu, I'll say.
Interesting.
I have deja vu like very often. I actually Googled it once and it told me scary things about how I might have a brain tumor.
Oh my gosh.
So anyways, but I mentioned it to my doctor and she was like, how often is it? And I was like, maybe like once a week. And she's like, that's fine. She's like, if it was happening every like 10 minutes, she'd be worried. But point is, I'll have like super strong deja vu that I'm like, I was standing in exactly this place speaking to you, and you talked about the red dress, and it was snowing outside.
I actually had one yesterday. I find, for me, I think what deja vu is that either I had a dream of like. To say it's the same exact situation as what's happening in reality is probably not true, but there's like enough elements there that I can recognize it as being familiar, which is really interesting. And then sometimes it's just even like, like it was, sometimes it was just like an exact copy of like a memory. Like what it was last night was that I was at the table with my parents and my mom had Zoe on her lap, and there was just something about like the way that they were sitting and the way that they were arranged that gave me deja vu. But I recognized immediately that it was like, instead of Zoe on her lap, it was like our previous dog. So it was just like for some reason, like it's just imprinted there and it's like, oh my God, it happened again, but just different, That's what I think deja vu is, but I don't know.
I don't know either. It's very unsettling to me when it happens.
It's so strange. It's always so strange. but it's cool. 23. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
Honestly, I think just like getting through it. I feel like I've had like a couple different health scares that, like, when put together, like there was a moment where I was like, am I going to finish college? Am I going to, like, you know, lead the life I dreamed of leading? And I feel like I've basically been able to not be limited by my health and pursuing my goals. And like a big part of that is being open to, like, I've built a community, I've built a support system, I really nurture my friendships, I nurture my family. I, you know, not, of course I say that like not everyone has the ability to have a good relationship with their family or other things, but I feel like mostly just proud of the life I've built that allows me to keep making art and to be well. And I hope that that will continue. And then I guess kind of related to that is probably honestly just finishing my short film, because like there's plenty of people that wouldn't finish a short film over 5 years. Like most people in my life assumed I think I had like dropped it, or like that I was just unwilling to admit that I had dropped it. But they really didn't know. I would often just chip away at it for like 1 hour a night. Because I mean, I can work like pretty long hours sometimes here, and it's like, okay, I get home at sometimes 7, and then you take like an hour to like make dinner and like kind of take care of yourself, and then you work for an hour, and then you go to bed, and then you do it the next day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, both great achievements, I think.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I very much like value my persistence.
Yeah, that's good. 24, last question. What do you want to plug?
Well, obviously, I want to plug Sunnyside Down.
Yes.
Been working on it over 3 years. And it's like kind of, you know, an homage to my own love of sci-fi. Growing up with my dad, like watching Star Wars was like our thing. Mm-hmm. And like, it's funny because there's all these reboots of all these like sci-fi things now, which kind of like suck, to be honest. Like, I feel like they're trying to squeeze the life out of them. So it's been kind of fun to do our own like sci-fi parodies and get to like almost make fun of these other bad sequels.
Yeah.
And being like, to not treat these like mega franchises as like so precious, and come up with like totally absurd, silly gags with them. Like, again, like somebody using force powers to cheat at Jenga. Come on. Or one of my favorite upcoming episodes is Snailinator, a Terminator snail that just, he will get you very, very slowly.
Yes.
So yeah, so we have the next episode coming out. I mean, when people are listening to this, it'll be January 21st, I believe. If it's not, you guys can follow us like on the Make Originals series socials on Instagram. Make Originals on YouTube is where they get put out for free for people to watch. Like, we're literally just making it for people to watch it and enjoy it because it's like a passion project of the studio. So we appreciate anybody who shares it. Okay, then, I mean, I guess I will plug my own personal short film creator is out now for anybody to see on my YouTube channel. My YouTube is Sketchy Natalia. My Instagram and other socials are Iron Natalia. Don't ask me why. Okay, my full name, Natalia Poteryakhin, is just too much and nobody would ever remember how to spell it. So I've had to come up with some other handles to stick with. But I post like kind of autobiographical comics is a lot of what I do. Behind the scenes on Making Sunnyside Down, or my own animated work, sketches, all kinds of like processy things is kind of more what I put on Instagram. And yeah, I'm probably going to make like a behind the scenes video on Making Creator for my YouTube and some of the realities of making a short over like 5 years. So maybe people can learn from my mistakes. So yeah.
Love it. Excited for everybody to check all that stuff out. And yeah, the show and your short film, all good stuff.
This podcast is recorded, edited, and produced by me, Zoe Lombardi-Bello. Booking assistance from Chris Hollis and Amy Stemmen. Digital marketing assistance by Arnish Kundu. Music by Cloutmeyer. Design by Sawyer Rapon. Special thanks to my mom and dad, Christy Kish, Michael Dondero, Barnaby Catterall,